Hey garden friends, a little different this morning. We are going to get some things done and I'm going to take you along. If you're new here, I'm Pam. I garden in Zone 8B in the mountains of Northern California, and that has an effect on my garden season as well as what I can grow and what I can't grow. It's not just my zone that determines that. So, as I was saying, we've had a heat wave. We just got through a heat wave. It has cooled down. We get to 90, which is still pretty hot for us in the mountains, but it's cooled down. It was getting to 100, which is not normal for us, but it has caused many of my flowers to bloom out or try to go to seed much sooner than they normally would. So today we're going to go take care of that so we can encourage a rebloom for the rest of the summer. So let's get going on our garden chores. I'm going to maybe plant some things. We'll see how far I get before it starts getting too hot. Yeah, right here. See this patch of Gaillardias? We are going to take them back fast. There's so many of them. There's a few blooming, but there's a bazillion more that have gone over. And beneath them are some buds. Now, I'm not going to go in and individually cut out each of those. I just don't have time. So I'm going to do it my fast way. Pardon me while I reach for my tool. This is going to be done with my hedge trimmers. And I'm just going to go in and prune them back. Now, I plant thickly, so I just let the debris go to the ground and mulch in place. And that is called sheet mulching. Now, sometimes I will try to avoid a bloom I see coming up, but other times I'm just going to go in and whack back because I don't have time to be more careful. And no worries, it will send up a lot more blooms. I will probably, now that it's cooled down, give it a shot of fertilizer. Now, Gaillardias don't take a lot. And my soil is pretty doggone healthy and nutrient rich because of the compost I put on it, my chicken manure compost. And so I don't want to encourage it to get super big and lush. I just want it to rebloom. So when I do, I'll use the eco-organic, which is made from food waste. It's very interesting how much food waste has affected the pollution on our earth. And so it makes me feel good that I'm using a product that puts it to good use rather than going to a landfill and creating CO2. All right. So yeah, food waste, it is amazing how much more it produces than the cars on the highway. So you want to have a part in... Okay. So there we go. Deadheading away. Plus it kind of prunes it back. If it was getting too far over into an area, I would just go in and really prune hard, prune it back. If I wanted to plant something back here. Now this area is slowly being curated. I'm seeing what's doing well. The gophers have eaten a bunch of irises, so I need to put more irises in cages. And yeah, that's something that's coming up. That feverfew also needs, oh yeah, bunch over there. So, okay, let me get over here. I think you can still see back here, but I don't want it going way back here. So I'm really gonna cut it back hard. Yeah, it's going all the way back here. Gotta be careful not to cut a hose, the irrigation pipe. Yeah. So I prune it back. Keep it more in line with where I want it. Now right now I'll leave this here to compost in place. And sometimes I even come in and I put a little mulch over it, and that will help it compost down and create new soil, and I don't have to haul it to anywhere. But if you want to clean it up and just have mulch, wood mulch showing, go right ahead. Now I'm also getting coffee grounds from a coffee shop, and that is supposedly the scent gophers don't like. So I'm thinking of maybe putting that on top of here. Now, usually I would compost coffee grounds first, but if I'm using it to deter gophers, then I would put them down here fresh. They don't hurt anything, especially as I'm putting it on top of all this debris. Boy, I've got a lot more in here I need to take out. And I have a whole blog post on coffee grounds and the best way to use them in the garden. And this is one way I do use them, is to cover over debris like this, help deter the gophers. We'll see how well it works. You have to continually add fresh for the scent to stay, to deter them. But I'm going to try it in a bed I know they're rampant in and see how well it helps with that. But composting your coffee grounds is the best thing to do. But here in this area, I'm not worried about germination of seedlings, which is one thing coffee grounds does deter. And I know with the debris here, it will compost in place. And I can bring some chicken manure in and or to neaten it up if I want to. This is not highly visible here. I can put some of the mulch that I like to get at Lowe's and Home Depot. It's called pathway bark. Pathway bark, yeah. And I love it because it's very fine. And yeah, it's just pretty. So it makes good into the flower bed mulch too. And it doesn't have any colorant added. I don't like mulches that have colorant added. I don't like adding any chemicals to my garden. Mosquitoes out here. Now here, this is the white rose campion. And you'll notice it's gone to seed. Normally, I would just whack this back to reflush with blooms. But I want to collect a bunch of the seeds. So I'm letting it go to seed. I could recollect from the second flush of blooms, but I want to do it now. So that's why I'm letting it stay. And it's not too unattractive with the seed pods. But once the seed pods, I've collected them, I can whack it back. I'll probably whack it back really hard. And yeah, it will rebloom. So that's what I'm planning on doing with that. Now this grass back here, it looks like it's an ornamental grass, but I didn't put one in here. So for me, it's a weed. I've been meaning to get it out of here all season long, and I haven't done it till now. So I'm gonna get my shovel and dig this baby out. And it's got a pretty good root system. Yeah, there she blows. Now that probably has a bazillion seed heads in it. So I am gonna throw it over there to be picked up and disposed of. So here's a bunch of more feverfew. That, and more ostrich ferns. Oh, big old dogwood, I'll probably have to dig that up. And stuff. Okay, so I got the grass gone. Looks like I'm stepping on another one. Let me get that one up too. Okay. All right, back here is a whole bunch of daisies that have pretty much gone to seed. It's kind of a dry spot, so they probably went over faster. So I'm going to do the same. You probably can't see me because of the dogwood tree, but we'll film it anyways. And I'm just going to go in and prune them back. Now I can watch, there's a bud right down below that will bloom. So it will get a little bit of a rebloom unless I cut back too far. But that's okay. This is back here, it's kind of a backdrop. I let it come in because it just blooms and it comes back every year and it's pretty. It fills in. And if I ever want to plant something different back here, it's super easy to dig up. So there is that daisy deadheaded. Now the deadheading also prevents it from reseeding back here. I don't want more of them. And here is my verbascum. This is my southern charm. I was hoping it would put seeds out. And it just may. I'm going to prune this one back too. Now, I will let it lie here so that it can drop its seeds to the ground. And maybe get some more plants. But it hasn't worked so far. I'm probably going to move it this fall. The other ones I moved to the back hillside really didn't look like they made it, but that's okay. I have plenty of them, but I have a oak leaf hydrangea back here that I want to fill in. And once that fills in, that will take over the space. So I need to move that verbascum if I want to keep it. In some areas out here, I will come and pick up debris because I can see where I need to do some weeding. My job is not weeding this morning. My job is to cut things back so that they can reflush more blooms. So when I come back in here, there's some things I will pick up. There's some things I will just dump coffee grounds or mulch on top of so that it can compost in place. And I learned that from Ruth Stout of Lazy Gardener Guide, whatever. I bought her book. It's from the 50s. And she was the pioneer of chop and drop as far as letting things, or at least the one published it in Organic Gardening Magazine way back when. Anyway, so that's what I do. So I like the feverfew by the fence. There's a pit there, kind of like, from tree roots rotting away. So I will just dump coffee grounds on top of the debris, and then on top of that, I can put chicken manure to fill in that cavity, and then by next year, I could plant something back there, or just let more feverfew come up because they spread like crazy, the seeds, and just come up where they want. They are shallow enough rooted that they're very easy to pull up in places you don't want, but they are a great easy flower to let fill in, and they are delicate little daisies and something really pretty. So I have them throughout the garden. After this heat wave, a lot of them are looking a little well-worn, dried up, going to seed, because that's what the heat does. Everything says, oh, we need to preserve our future. We're gonna go to seed, spread it, etc. But if you cut them back, it prevents them going to seed, and then they think, oh no, we've got to produce more flowers because we've got to produce seeds. So that is the background of deadheading. And after a heat wave like this, you have to do a lot more of it than if you had to just slowly do it through the season. If we had just stuck to our regular temperatures, a lot of the flowers in my garden would not have gone or tried to go to seed so quickly. So here are some roses. These are my Graham Thomas and my Golden Celebration over here. Now you see how they've all gotten brown and crispy. Well, that's because I didn't like the heat. Now, do I worry about going back to a 5-leaf petal or leaf structure? No, I don't. I'll show you. When I'm in a hurry, as I am this morning to get a lot done, I just come in and I make sure I'm not going to take off a new bud. And also you can look, I do have a rose care video coming up. And you can, if you see new growth already, go back to that. Don't worry about how many leaves or whatever. That is really for show roses and not for just shrub roses. I have mostly shrub roses. That's a larkspur back there that needed a little bit of pruning, flopping over. Anyways, and it's as easy as that. And I get tons and tons. I have healthy roses, you know, it is what it is. Now, if it's amongst, like over here, there's one that needs deadheading, and I'm not going to go in with my big. I'm not going to go in with the big shears. I'm just going to do this, and I'll look and see where there's new growth. There hasn't put out new growth, so I'm going to take it back to where I want it, and that's that. It's nothing fancy. I don't even look to how many leaves. I know if I go back far enough, then there will be the 5 leaves. But I look for new growth, none on that one. And I looked for where the stem would be thick enough to hold another bloom, especially with David Austin roses because they tend to flop unless you support them. And of course, I didn't take off all the way down. There's only 3 leaves here because there's 2 more buds. So that's another reason not to go to the 5-leaf whatever. So down here, this one isn't 5-leaf either. So, because I didn't want to take off these new buds. Hopefully they're in the camera. So I just go in and just prune off what I need to a sturdy stem. So let's see, I think that's all on that one. These are my Hyde Hall David Austin roses. Aren't they gorgeous? Hopefully I was in the camera. I probably wasn't, huh? Alrighty, here's this one back here. Hopefully you can see it. But I'm just going to take it back and I'll look and see if there's any new growth there is not. So I'm just going to take it back to where I know it's sturdy enough to support another rose. Same here, take it back to where it's sturdy enough. Usually, you can feel how sturdy the stem is. Some people will say the size of a pencil, but many of these stems are not the size of a pencil. So you would be, you know, if you went all the way back, you'd be cutting it back too far and you'd be cutting off blooms for a long time. These will reflush in just a couple weeks because they'll put out new growth. I'm trying to see, that one's kind of deadish. So if you see anything brown and needing removal, just go ahead and take it out. Now this one right here, even though it's just not looking good. So I'm going to take it off. There's a bud next to it. And that way the rose can put more energy towards this bud. So I am collecting the rose debris. So yeah, I got buds. This flower is kind of yucky. I will take it back to where it's sturdy. It was way past the first 5-leaf petiole, they call it, I think. Alrighty, there are those. These Hyde Hall are really, really beautiful. They get to 6 feet when they're not in a container. These are in a container. So let me get down out of here. Well, here's another chore. A lot of things, because they reach for the sun. This is kind of in the shade a little bit, so they flop down, reaching for the sun. So I want to prop them back up. I had thought about just cutting them off. Oops, tripped over a rock. But then again, I thought give them another chance, and we'll see. Now this is a piece of pantyhose that I have cut. And I can take these back to, I have also used garden wire for this, and that works very well. Try not to step on anything important. I cut this longer than a lot of pieces I cut, and the stretch really helps to, so if you hear a spaceship sound, that's what it is. Okay, I want to take this down a little bit, where it's down lower on the stems. Yeah, that's her. Anyways, and some of them I will prune out. You see, some of them have gotten snapped. And sometimes I don't like the way it bunches it up, so I have to go out and fluff it. And then I will prune out the ones that are, the stems got super bent. Let me grab my pruners. And some are down here that are getting ready to bloom. So I have to decide if I want to bring those up too or not. Now, the only thing about them laying down on the ground, other than them not being very attractive, is they shade out my other plants. I've got my petunias I started from seed down here. They're doing beautifully. They love the heat as long as they got plenty of water. And yeah, so I want to get those taken care of. Oh, mosquito trying to get me. So some of these are really bent. You could also see how this is like bent to the point that it's not going to recover for sure. So I'm going to come in. Many times I would just chop them and let them go to the ground. And that, right there where I stepped, it really sank. So it tells me gophers in here too. For some reason, the gophers have not eaten my daisies. I can't say they won't ever, because sometimes they'll ignore a plant. Like I didn't have any trouble with them eating my irises before, and now they eat them all up. In fact, one of my videos, 2 of my videos actually, my garden videos, tours, I'll show you them eating. You can see the iris being eaten. I caught them red-handed. Okay, this one needs to go. That one needs to go. Now you can go back and on the plant and find where the next bud is coming out to bloom. Now that one needs to go because it's got a bent head. Now I did a really poor job of that, guys. Sometimes this gathers too tightly, and I think it's too tight. It might have been better doing it with a piece of garden wire, and then you can form it to a shape. But for now, and I may just decide to come in and cut this all back and let it rebloom. I wanted to stop here a moment and say that this is a good time to really assess what is working for you in your garden and what is not for this time of year. There's things that, for me, they're too tall and they are too close to the pathway. So I will make a mental note, I make a list of things I want to change in the fall when it's a better time to transfer plants and you have a little bit more time. I can move them right now as long as I kept them well hydrated. I could move them, and some of them I may. Like I was thinking of the verbascum, my southern charm verbascum. I may very well move it. It depends on time. I run out of time so quickly. And anyways, assess and make a notation of what you want to move come fall. And I will share with what you want right now. I don't remember putting it in this bed. I must have, unless it came up from seed. But it's too tall in that area, and it's beautiful. It hasn't started blooming yet. But to move it right now means I probably would hinder it blooming, and it would probably bloom pretty. But if I was tough, I would just move it right now and forget about getting the blooms. And it goes back to time too. If I had had a lot of time, I think I would go ahead and move it. And I think I am going to put it in the back lane garden. I've been speaking about the back lane garden. It is a new garden that is going to be plants that I either don't like in these areas I found on the bargain rack I want to try out, or other things. It's not going to be this pretty curated space. It's going to be a testing ground. But also it's going to be where I don't want to get rid of a beautiful plant just because it doesn't work in the other areas that are a little more curated, tidier. My gardens are never tidy. I am in it for the plants, not really for an overall look. That's why I go towards the cottage gardening theme, because that's what it is. You throw in plants. And yeah, a lot of people have a plant and a bunch of mulch, and then a plant and a bunch of mulch. Not me, it's plants. And I do it for the plants, as I said before. And I enjoy it that way. So don't be afraid to cram plants together. And I have not really had any issues. Like some say, oh, you need to space them out so you don't get disease and whatever. Maybe in humider climates that is something to consider, but I haven't. There are some plants that are more susceptible to things like powdery mildew, etc. And those ones, if they get it too much, where it's really ugly, I'll take them out. And those would be ones maybe I would relocate the back hillside. Maybe they do need a little more space. But the ones that I've been trying to lean into are the ones that are much more resistant to it. I do have some roses, vintage roses, that can succumb to fungal issues, but I have a rosemary clove oil organic spray that I can spray them down with, and it seems to do a very good job when I remember to spray them. I don't always get to it, and they just have to tough it out. A lot of plants in my garden just have to tough it out because I don't want to be a slave to my garden. I just want to enjoy it. I actually enjoy gardening chores when I have time for them. But if I want to take a Saturday or a day, and instead of tackling things in the garden, and I just want to go, like we just went to a flower festival. It was kind of a last minute thing, and we took off. I had a list a mile long to get done that day. But as I said, if I want to go do something, I want to just go do something and not think, no, I got to get this stuff done in the garden. Nope, that's not what my garden is for. My garden is for me to enjoy, not to be a slave to. So let's move on to our next chore. Well, I was going to show you that plant that I don't remember putting in this spot, and it's not working there, and it's going to get put on the back hillside in the back lane garden. So here it is. This is a Russian sage, Perovskia. The ones I have growing right now in my garden are all ones I grew from seed. And like I said, I don't remember this one being planted here. I could have, just thinking I need to get this in the ground, I'll let it grow, then move it. I do that sometimes. Let's move back a little bit. But you see, this is the artist's garden, and it's just too tall in the space. It's taking over. I think it would really do good in the back hillside by my Scepter d'Isle, rose back there, the blue offset with that pink, I think it would be gorgeous. So I think this would be a good spot that will be a good spot to move this. And I will do that later in the season. So let's see, what's next chore? Things I do look for deadheading too is like this Veronica. Let me point you down. I moved you. There we go. This is perfectly Picasso Veronica. I love the Veronicas. I have several. I have one or two that does get powdery mildew, but this isn't really one of them. So you see how it's already bloomed out all the way to the top? I just take it and I do that. And it will put on more blooms. Now I won't do it to all of them because the pink even on the top is really pretty. And the spikes are pretty. But I just go through and deadhead back some of them. And then we'll get some blooms. We'll get fresh blooms. Let me see, yeah. Because they start blooming from the bottom and then they go to the top. And then it will rebloom, I promise. So the first bloom is always the biggest, and then subsequent flushes are lighter, but still pretty. And that's why if you have a lot of plants, it really helps, because then something else is blooming when something else is recovering or getting ready to rebloom. So let's see. I don't think I need to deadhead any of I think I already did it, my Verbena bonariensis. Let me see, let me look over here at this one. Hopefully it's not going to be too jiggly. This one, I probably could. I don't know if you're getting black backlight. I probably could because it's looking a little faded, or it could be the sun on it. Now it's looking a little faded. Now I could take this back. There's coneflower coming up. Hope you don't mind me moving the camera while I'm talking to you here. Let me see. I can't see in here. Let's see this right here. Yep, you can see it. All right. So this is kind of getting faded out. So I'm going to take it down. Oh, I'm going to take it down, way down. See how much I cut off. And number one, that'll prevent the seeds from spreading if you don't want them. Some people consider this invasive in some areas. It doesn't seem to have become so here, but it's super easy to pull out if I don't want it in a spot. I let it come up around the garden, and if I see it and I recognize it pretty soon, after you've had plants in your garden for a while, you recognize different ones from the seedling on. And then you can just pull them up. And most things are pretty easy to pull up. And there we go. We cleaned that one up. And it will rebloom. Trust me, it will rebloom. The gentle turn didn't work. But see, here's the Monarda, and it will need to be cut back probably a week or two. And it will reflush. And I will pull out some that is taking up too much space, etc. Now I'm going to share with you, right over here, is some foxgloves. Let me throw down the debris here I have in my hand. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to show you how I reseed and grow foxglove from seed. Let me see if I can get this rose. Boy, this rose is thorny. Get that up there. Oh, boy, that thing's full of thorns. Alrighty, so here is the foxglove, cutting it off, and then I just shake it down, chop it, and let it go down. Same. Now some of these I might just pull out once I've cut them, and then I have a nice spot for something that I might want to put in here. They pull up really easy. You see that? And I'll compost that. I have a fern here I don't want in here. Let me see if I can pull that up. A little more heftier. But that is basically how I get tons of foxgloves. And if I didn't want them, I would cut it. Well, I would have cut them sooner before they went to seed. Oops, I just cut myself. Doggone it. Be careful. All right, this looks like phlox coming up here. This is a foxglove. Used to come out And while I'm up here, I'm going to deadhead these roses, and then I'm going to go treat my hand I just cut. Always, when you've been out in the garden and you cut yourself, get an open wound, go treat it, because you can get bacteria and whatever in there and get a very bad infection. So, I should have had gloves on. Alrighty, getting this rose. This is European rose. I don't even know if you can see me. I'm way down in here. Alrighty, a couple more foxgloves to pull out. They do pull out really nice and easy. Alrighty, this way I can see my, look at this lily. Isn't this gorgeous? Hopefully you can see it. Oh, that one. Now this will go to seed. I've had them come up from seed, so I should leave the seed heads to come up. As you can see, this meadow sage here needs a bit of a prune back. This is another one. I'm just going to take the pruning shears. I'm not going to collect it up into a handful and then prune. Like I would with my pruners, I would gather up a handful and prune it. I am just going to take it back. They are leaning over from the heavy top weight, and I'm just going to, they needed it sooner than this, but I just noticed they really need it badly, and I'm not going to mess around with it. I've got plenty of stuff going on in this garden, this bed, so if I have to wait for a rebloom, fine. If I don't get a rebloom, they'll just be pretty plants in here, and they have performed so beautifully since spring that, yeah, see, I did cut off a few blooms. That's okay. That's okay. Looks like they had a lot of seed pods on them. I wonder if these go to seed and will reseed themselves. That would be interesting. I've not tested it, so. Yes, I'm just piling them up over here. I'm doing my sheet composting. Again, I can cover that with some mulch, etc., to make it look tidier. And all of that. It's all well and good. And if I was thinking, oh, I don't like that there, I could just come in with a big bucket and collect up all the stuff that is on the ground. Whoops, cut a piece of my spirea, but that's okay. I don't know if you noticed my candy corn spirea. I planted them in the ground when it was super hot. They kind of are a little wilty, but not too bad. They did much better than I anticipated. All right, I think I got this all done. That makes quick work of that deadheading. And I can see a weed while I'm in here. All right, that is done. Like, I left one little pretty bloom, and I see a weed. Didn't even know I was in there. Let's see, where is that coming from? Make sure I get the root and all. I don't think I got all of the root. Probably be better with, oh, probably will come back, but I will watch for it. Okay. Good. Good job. So, my garden friends, that was my morning of getting a few after the heat wave chores done to kind of revive my plants. I only got to the front garden in a couple of hours. It would have been faster if I wasn't trying to film, I will admit that, but sometimes you don't get as far as you think you can with doing chores, but it's all good. The rest will wait. They'll be fine. Tomorrow morning is another morning I can tackle it. But pretty much all of this stuff could have been not done. Like the daisies I tied up, I could have just whacked them back. That would have saved time. And there's plenty blooming around it that wouldn't have mattered. And I may go back in and decide I don't like them the way they look tied up and just trim them back. The same with the Gaillardia, letting them go to seed's not bad. In fact, the seed heads are kind of pretty themselves. And yeah, it would have been fine. So, like I said, don't sweat things in the garden. Also, word of warning, be careful when you're pruning that you don't slice your hand. Be careful your hand's not in the way. So, yes, it's all good. It's all good. So that, my friends, is it. I have more to do in the side garden. I have more to do in the secret cottage garden. I've been pulling things out and trimming back and whatever. There's going to be bare spots. So I'm going to think about what I want to do there. You know, it's a good plan, and I didn't do it this year. I wanted to, and I just didn't get there, is to plant things in big containers, like my galvanized tubs I have. They're bushel basket tubs I got from Tractor Supply. They're empty right now. I kept waffling on what I wanted to plant in them. If I had planted like dahlias in them, or gladiolas, or something that I could just pop into a space, or even something else that I know the gophers like, but I can't really plant in the ground without putting them in a cage. Something like that to fill in with color. Or I could have seeded it with zinnias and then popped it in after I popped out some other plants. I watched a garden show, and I'm always watching garden shows. The head gardener of a big estate, when he pulled out spring blooming plants, he potted them up after they were done blooming. And he had summer blooming perennials that he popped in that were in containers, and he rotated them that way. So kind of like with my irises. If I took them all out now and potted them up, and I could put them back in later, things like that. Or even like my roses. I have some roses that I can pop, they're in containers. I can pop into the bare spot in the secret cottage garden. Things like that. Yeah, all kinds of neat ideas you can glean from garden shows, but also that you can do to fill in bare spots, that if you want rambunctious color like I do, and not just a plant and then mulch, a plant and then mulch, yeah, think outside of the box. And when I put some potted plants into the bare spot, I'll bring you along and share that with you. So I hope you enjoyed this video of just getting a few things done. This is the reality of gardening. The sun had been coming through a spot in the trees, and now it's behind more trees. It's getting lower in the sky again. That's kind of sad, because that means fall is on its way. It's okay. It's all good. I'm just going to enjoy my garden while I can. I will see you in my next video. Bye.